This video is sponsored by the Cube-A-Majig Series 2 Kickstarter campaign. Interesting news in the world of Magic the Gathering today. We have confirmation that we're going to be returning to two different planes that we've visited in the past. One is a plane that we've been to recently, and that's Dominaria. But another one is a plane we have not been to in a very long time, and that is Kamigawa.
Magic. I am a wizard! History. I'm an old wizard! The magic historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends. I hope the day finds you well. We are here today to talk about a return to two different planes. We're talking Dominaria, which we visited in the last number of years, and Kamigawa, a world that we haven't been to in decades. It feels like it's been at least, 20, maybe a little less than 20 years since we went to Kamigawa. It's pretty wild the way things work. We've been back to Ravnica multiple times. We're going back to Innistrad multiple times, and Kamigawa's never even gotten a second nibble. And we'll get into why things break down the way they do. But first of all, let's talk about how we know this is happening. We know this is happening through domain name registration. So if you don't know what that means, really simply put, it's just website addresses, okay? So when you have a big corporation, what you need to do is get all of your ducks in a row before you release a product. Otherwise, you can live in Nightmare Town. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, let's say Wizards of the Coast decided to announce the name of a set and everything they're doing before they owned the domain name. Then somebody else can go out and get that website address ahead of them, right? And they basically have Wizards of the Coast over a barrel at that point, because you've got two options. Either you buy the domain name at an inflated price from this person, or you have no control over what happens when somebody goes to look at the actual website, right? And that can lead to really, really questionable results. So corporations have learned that before announcing a product, before it's even really developed, they need to buy the domain names for these products. So we've had domains registered for two different Magic worlds. One is Kamigawa and the other is Dominaria, obviously, right? So Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. That may actually sound a bit familiar to you because I covered the registration of that domain all the way back in October of last year, all right? But Dominaria wasn't included at that time. Now, there was information about the Kamigawa Neon Dynasty as well through surveys that Wizards of the Coast was doing with the customer base. So it's really, Kamigawa's going to be the biggest departure, I believe, from what we've seen in the past. So I said we're going to talk about why we don't return to sets like Kamigawa over these long periods of time versus hitting Innistrad over and over, same with Ravnica. And the reason for that actually boils down to sales. If a set sells really well, then the name associated with that set, the world associated with that set, is somewhere we're going to return to on a semi-regular basis. Wizards of the Coast likes to return to sets, or I should say return to worlds, because it saves a lot of money. You don't have to build a new world. The name is already associated with good times and people's memories. Anybody who started playing during Ravnica Block, for example, is going to have fond memories of Ravnica Block. So it works in reverse as well. If a set doesn't sell well, then Wizards of the Coast basically goes, we're not going to do anything with this world. I never expected us to go back to Kamigawa because Kamigawa had the unfortunate bad luck of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Kamigawa came right after Mirrodin Block, and Mirrodin Block was magic on roids, okay? Like, Mirrodin Block was insane and overpowered. So Kamigawa was brought in at a weakened level to kind of dilute the power of Standard overall, because if they just keep ratcheting it up, we enter into insane power creep town, right? So Kamigawa was intentionally made a weaker set, and it showed. The set really did feel weaker, and it didn't sell very well. The whole block did not sell very well. Now, over time, cards from the Kamigawa set got some love, gained some prevalence, and that sort of thing, right? But really, Kamigawa didn't do that well, which is unfortunate because Kamigawa had a really awesome story behind it. The idea with the Kamigawa storyline was you had this powerful lord who essentially reached into the spirit world and stole the child of the most powerful spirit in the entire spirit world. But the spirit world there is firmly connected with the physical world on Kamigawa, where everything has a spirit. Human souls even turned against them. The spirits of everything. The entire spirit world turned against the mortal denizens of Kamigawa. And it was a pretty one-sided scenario. So the story was absolutely magnificent. However, the set was so weak that they went, nope, we're never going back to Kamigawa. And now we have Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. So it appears that Wizards of the Coast is willing to take older names, but only if they basically completely transform what the product is, right? So with the Ravnica set, when we go back to Ravnica each time, it's pretty much the same deal. You're going to get your 10 guilds, it's set in the same world. Sure, we're progressing along the timeline, but not in a massive, insane kind of way. But Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, from the information that I recall, could be set as much as 1,000 years after the time frame of the original Kamigawa block. And it could be set in a futuristic cyberpunk world that focuses more on people having psychic powers and abilities as opposed to genuine magic. So this Neon Dynasty could represent a massive divergence from normal Magic, the Magic the Gathering sets, and also the original Kamigawa. Now, I don't remember absolutely everything that happened back then, so if you want, what I'll do is I'll leave a link up for the video where I talk about Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, because I did that back in October, and I go into more detail about it. So if you'd like to check that out, you can. I have to say, I'm not the biggest fan of super futuristic stuff in Magic. I know they're going to be bringing in Warhammer 40k commander decks, and ultimately that's not my cup of tea when it comes to Magic, but I've accepted it for what it is, right? There's going to be a lot of wild and crazy stuff being added into Magic over the next number of years, so my personal tastes aren't going to change anything, and there will be some people who will be totally hyped for that. So, you know, it's all good. Enjoy it. Hopefully it turns out in a way where everybody has a good time with it. And who knows? I'm gonna try and keep an open mind and try and enjoy Kamigawa for what it is when it comes out. Now understand, this doesn't necessarily automatically mean that we're going to be getting a full block based on Kamigawa or even a full set based on Kamigawa. This could be a special box set, some kind of dual deck product. It could even be theoretically one of those Modern Horizon or remastered style, like Here It Comes in the Middle of Summer set, where it has nothing to do with standard and it's just a bonus set. Although they tend to want to sell sets at inflated prices for those summer releases, so I don't know if Kamigawa Neon Dynasty would really fall into that. But like I said, we've got Kamigawa and we've got Dominaria United. Now, when the Kamigawa, when the Kamigawa website address got registered, they hadn't registered the Dominarian one. That actually didn't get registered until January of this year. Now, Wizards of the Coast works like a year and a half, 2 years, somewhat roughly into the future in terms of set design. I don't know where the actual domain registration falls in that process, because obviously you don't want to do it as soon as you start working on a set, because you may not have even figured out the name of the set, what it's going to be. It doesn't really have an identity yet. So I figured that they probably register the domains roughly a year and a half at most in advance, which means that we're probably going to see Kamigawa Neon Dynasty somewhere to about maybe the middle of the year, maybe a little bit earlier than that. So either mid-year or earlier, and the Dominaria set will most likely be showing up at the tail end of next year. So either at the end of 2022 or at the beginning of 2023. It feels so futuristic and weird to say these numbers. This stuff, it's making me feel old. But anyways, Kamigawa and Neon Dynasty, I'll put the link at the end, so if you want to go and check out the video where I talk about that, you can. Dominaria United is something that is genuinely more exciting to me. Dominaria is the most important plane in all of Magic the Gathering. And by that I mean, it's literally the nexus, it's the keystone of the multiverse. The entire multiverse hinges around Dominaria, or as it's been known in the past, Dominia Prime, right? So, Dominaria has been used in a ton of Magic the Gathering stories. If you've been checking out the old school lore that I've been doing over on Fantasy Geographic, all of the Urza's storyline, all that stuff is focused on the world of Dominaria, right? It's Urza's struggle against the Phyrexians. The Phyrexians want to take over Dominaria. It is a key part of their plan. Yawgmoth was very, very keen on acquiring Dominaria. So, you'll notice, I just mentioned Phyrexians. And what have we been seeing a resurgence in? Phyrexians. We've got that Phyrexian secret layer that's coming up with the full text, like Phyrexian Praetors. Not full text, but Phyrexian text Praetors. We've also seen that they slipped a Phyrexian into Kaldheim, right? Vorinclex just showed up and was like, what up, right? So we've got that. You've also got the fact that, and this one needs to be taken with a grain of salt because Theros is a weird beast, but we do have the Theros storyline where, what's the name? Ashiok. The Planeswalker Ashiok has decided to go off and look for the Phyrexians after reaching into Elspeth's mind and learning about the Phyrexians. So, like I said, that needs to be taken with a grain of salt because the Theros storyline was originally written as a full-on book, but then Wizards of the Coast refused to release the book and gave us like a 16-sentence summary of the story. So I don't know exactly how much that weighs into the Phyrexian thing, but they've just done a grand Phyrexian creature type update as well, where all the creatures in the past that are Phyrexians have been given the Phyrexian creature type, which lends more credence to the idea of Phyrexians coming back in a larger sense. And Dominaria is one of the prizes of the multiverse that Phyrexia has always desired. Yes, Yawgmoth doesn't exist anymore, but all of the Phyrexian oil originates from the original Phyrexia. So it's entirely possible that this innate desire to claim and subsume and complete the grand completion of Dominaria could exist as a motivating underlying driver for the Phyrexians. So they could be seeking out Dominaria, and on Dominaria we could have a massive clash of the Phyrexians against the Dominarians, or perhaps outside forces that have come to aid Dominaria. It's been a long time since the Phyrexian invasion back in the day, and if you want to know more about Phyrexia, I encourage you to go check out my Phyrexian lore over on Fantasy Geographic. In fact, I'll link that at the end as well. So we'll have two different options for you, the Kamigawa and the Phyrexian lore discussion, because Phyrexia is a very compelling villain. Like, a very compelling group of villains, I guess. Phyrexia is not a villain itself, but I think of them as one massive collective, right? Because they function in that way. There's not a lot of independence. Independence is frowned upon, at the very least, in Phyrexian society. And by that I mean, they will take you and have you reprocessed into something else if you're not, like, fallen in line, right? So for me, Dominaria is definitely the more exciting of the two and more wide open to what they could do. I really enjoy visiting these older locations and seeing what they look like in current times, or who knows? I mean, we can go anywhere in the timeline, but Dominaria United definitely sounds to me like something's going on to bring all the peoples of Dominaria together. And my guess is it would take something massive and insane like the Phyrexians invading for all the Dominarians to pull together, right? Right now they're just dealing with minor threats like the demon Belzenlock or whatever his name is. So yeah, I have to say I'm super, super stoked about that. Now, my friends, before I give you the links to those other videos, let's go ahead and check in with my sponsor. So what exactly is a Cubomajig? Simply put, they are sturdy, reusable boosters that have amazing artwork from some of Magic's best artists. The purpose of a Cubamajig is to store individually your cube draft packs or your sideboard. You could use it for chaos drafts, for leagues, or even to separate your jumpstart cards. The Cubamajig packs hold 15 double-sleeved cards, 20 single-sleeved cards, or 30 unsleeved cards per pack. One of the things that I most enjoy about the Cubamajigs is the way that they seal closed, making sure that they won't cause any damage to the cards inside. Series 2 of Cubamajigs brings some serious improvements. There is a new production method that allows for cleaner seams and stops the packs from bulging outwards. The Cubamajigs now come pre-made, so there's no assembly required. Each set of 10 Cubamajigs now comes with a 400 count box to store them in that can be used separately if you desire. The Kickstarter campaign also features the Potamajig, a bigger box that's designed to hold all of your Cubamajigs. On top of all this, the Kickstarter also features playmat showcasing the amazing artwork from these boxes, tokens with the same art, life pads called Jotamajigs, and also miniature pencils to use with them. There's also a series of sleeves that will feature this artwork, and they even have the original art available for sale. Now that you have all the information that you need, head on over to the Cubamajigs Kickstarter, because this pricing is a limited time offering. You'll find the link to take you there in the description below. My thanks to the Cubamajigs Series 2 Kickstarter project for sponsoring this video.